energy. Woo! All right, so I think I have the best job at this conference. So I'm going to dispute you, Hannah, because I get to talk to all of you, and I'm actually going to lead a conversation about one of the things that Hannah just referenced, which is AI, and how to balance your climate goals with the rapid growth of that amazing, life-changing, world-changing technology. And here to help me do that is the Chief Sustainability Officer of Atlassian, Jess Hyman. So Jess, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. And just a little bit of context, for those of you who don't know that company, it's a leader in collaboration software, lots of different types of teams, development, et cetera, used by about 80%, 80 of the Fortune 500. So very well penetrated enterprise software company, and they have had, you've been in the role for 10 years, and they have long-term goals and short-term goals. And the long-term one is net zero by 2040. Some of the short-term goals are coming due this year, so I want to hear where we're going. Just to name a couple, 50% reduction in scope 1 and 2, 25% in business travel, and some other ones as well. So the first question really is, okay, you're leaning into AI at the company.
Yeah.
How is that affecting your progress, and where's your brain on this one?
Yep. You know, like most of you, having transformation and innovation come when you're working towards a net zero goal that's 10, 20 years long is normal. We should expect this. And AI is not the first one. You know, many of us were leading sustainability goals during COVID in the shift to remote work. Mm-hmm. So we have to treat this just like any other business transformation and not let it derail us. There are two ways that I'm really thinking about this right now. The first is our customers. So when I think about our customer base, we have seen an 83% increase year over year in customers asking Atlassian for specific requirements related to climate as part of deal flow. So they're basically saying, you're a supplier, I need to see that my supplier is on this net zero journey too. Mm-hmm. And as I'm thinking about the role that AI will play, how will that shift customer expectations of us? What are they going to want to know, for example, about product level emissions? The other way I'm thinking about it is our Scope 3 emissions. So you mentioned our emissions reduction goals. Atlassian doesn't have our own data centers. We're a cloud company. So I have to think about how is this going to play out with the hyperscalers that sit in my supply chain, and how do I influence them?
So where are you right now? It's 2025. So are you on target?
So for Atlassian, FY25, which were our goals, was actually last year. Mm-hmm. So we're at that milestone mark. And look, we're behind where we would want to be on supplier engagement. That goes back to our hyperscalers, which make up a bulk of those emissions. I'm sure we share a lot of the same hyperscaler suppliers as you do. And we're behind on business travel. So we have to own where we're not where we wanted to be at that milestone, but to see the long arc of time. So what's the point of that FY20 milestone, 25? It's to make sure you're moving in the right pace towards FY40. So I think it's enabled us to say, okay, scope 1 and 2, that was easy. We've got our RECs, we've got 100% renewable, we're now doing VPPAs. Scope 3 is a challenge, and we've learned so much along the way, and we have to understand that progress is not linear. You all know this. So not to take that as defeat, but rather to say, now I know where we need to double down, and we've got a really solid foundation as we look to set the next 5-year milestones.
So are you spread across all of the hyperscalers?
No, in fact, Atlassian has had a really deep partnership with AWS, as I'm sure a lot of software companies do, but we've now embarked on a multi-cloud strategy and just landed a partnership with Google as well. And so, we're playing the long game here. We've got a great relationship with AWS, and we're really excited about what Google offers in terms of their bold and ambitious sustainability commitments.
So actually, the decision to diversify, was that a business decision?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a business decision, and it's important to note that sustainability played a role in thinking that through.
How did it play a role?
So as our engineering and product teams were thinking about what a multi-cloud strategy would bring, they came to our sustainability team and said, hey, help us understand how does this play into our net zero goals, and how can we make that part of the decision-making framework?
So AWS doesn't technically have a net zero goal, or at least one that's validated by SBTi. Mm-hmm. Put it out there. So what is it that you ask of them? Like what information and data are they giving to you to help you understand that they are moving in the direction that you need to move?
I think, for many of us that have supplier engagement goals set through the Science-Based Target Initiative, the first step is to get those suppliers to commit to setting a science-based target, ideally through the SBTi. our ask to all of our top suppliers, and really to all of our suppliers, has been to do that. But that's kind of step one. I think when it comes to supplier engagement, we have to really think strategically, especially about the list of suppliers that sit at the very, very top. So for us, top 10 suppliers. And for them, there's really three things that we've been doing. The first is you have got to build a relationship with them. So this has to be a play as a team. AWS included, we are so close with the sustainability team over there, and we have to be along in the journey together to understand what are the headwinds that they're up against, which are different than ours. How do we support them with a business case? Where are they in the journey of giving us better data, which, they just had some announcements recently about increased Scope 3 data, which is awesome for us. So be on the road with them. Two, aggregate your voice. There are AWS has a lot of customers sitting in the room today. So how are we making this ask clear in a way that's more aggregated? And then I think third, use your leadership teams. I'm not the one signing the AWS deal and building that partnership. So how do I get the folks at Atlassian having the right conversations with AWS or Google or whatever other supplier it is we're trying to engage? So I would say whether it's the hyperscalers or any other supplier, that really is our thought process.
Do you have the same exact criteria for both of those partners?
We have the same ask to all of our suppliers, especially the ones at the top, which is to set a science-based target net zero goal. Yeah.
So actually, who do you report to?
So I report through the legal team up through the CFO.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you mention, you're not signing those contracts? How did you influence those who were signing the contracts?
This is a long-term journey that actually started with us building a really close relationship with the procurement team. So as we were setting our science-based target, before we even officially submitted it, I got together with the head of FP&A who manages procurement and said, this is where we're headed. I need you to be on the journey with me. And that relationship is really important. So the procurement team getting on board meant that we now know how that process works and how to influence it. And that means getting with your supplier relationship owner. And in this case, when you move way up that chain of your top suppliers, the folks in your company that manage those relationships is going to be sitting close to the exec team. And so we've spent years building those relationships and knowing who the influencers are.
And you do have a particularly vocal CEO about these issues. So why is that important, and how do you influence that?
Yep. So as you have heard, Atlassian makes collaboration software. Our co-founder and CEO, Mike, who's in Australia, is extremely influential in the climate space and personally has made a lot of investments in the net zero transition. So I have that going for me.
Yeah.
But I also want to acknowledge that's the starting point. Mike has really held a very high bar for me in making sure that any net zero strategy we have is held to the same bar as the rest of our business strategies. I think where I've really benefited in this way, I can see some of the faces are like, well, she's got an easy ride. Like the CFO gets this. And just to say, yes, and he gets it, which means he's really going to push me. And I have benefited from that. Our net zero strategy has benefited from being challenged, from being questioned, from being pushed. It also means that I got to learn a lot from him. A couple of things that he, 10 years in at Atlassian, so I've spent a lot of time learning from that leadership team. And he said to me always, put in the hard yards. And for me, that has always meant chase the thing that is going to be most impactful for hitting your goal, not headlines, and not short term either. So play the long game. And he's also always said progress over perfection. And that has given me the space to be okay coming here and saying to you all, we're not where I wanted to be by FY25, and we're making progress, and we're still gunning for the end goal of net zero.
Are you making any adjustments?
Yes,
to your short
always.
To your short, so what are you aiming for 2030 now?
We're in the middle of crafting our next set of goals, which has to get validated by the Science Based Target Initiative. I would say the biggest thing that I'm thinking about is, one, I have to be tracking towards the business strategy. So where is Atlassian going over the next 5 years, and how do I make sure that our net zero goal is not sitting on the sidelines, but rather it's laddering up into that business strategy? So if Atlassian is chasing AI, how is our net zero goal helping us in that effort? Similarly, if Atlassian is really going up market and after enterprise customers, how do I contextualize our net zero goal in terms of delivering value to them? The other way I'm thinking about this is when I look at the next 5-year journey, where is the bulk of our emissions going to sit? We have a business travel goal because for our FY25 set of milestones, the Science Based Targets Initiative is pretty clear on what you need to include. And it's not to say that that goal doesn't matter, but I'm looking at where our emissions are going, and we need to double down on our supplier engagement.
Yep, for sure. So when you think about other things that you could do, like what is the most effective lever so far that you've seen?
The most effective lever I've seen is collaboration and teamwork and having the right relationships. And that does not just mean the CEO that is behind me or the person I report to, but it is building relationships across the business so that I can actually speak the language of every executive team member at Atlassian. I have to be able to take our net zero strategy and translate it for a chief revenue officer just as well as I can for our general counsel, just as well as I can for the people team leader. I think so much is changing. AI is obviously, high on your mind, but so much is changing in the world around us and for our businesses. In order for us to keep pace with that, we have to understand all of the different strategies at play and how to communicate in a way that will land.
This probably is a particularly relevant question for your company. I'm not sure about you. It's pretty technical. But software, and you influence a lot of software development teams. So how can Atlassian's products help bring those emissions down? Like how can you develop your software differently, and how then potentially could that apply to your customers?
Atlassian's mission is to unleash the potential of every team. So we make products like Trello or Loom, Confluence, and Jira to help teams collaborate more efficiently for over 300,000 customers. One of the ways that we've been able to influence and support that customer group is through our Don't Fuck the Planet guide. We put out just a really straight depiction of how Atlassian has set and made progress on our net zero goal. It's humble. I think we come with the understanding that there's not one way to do this and that we need to lean in and share as much of what didn't work as what did. And so I think that was our starting point in saying, hey, when it comes to teamwork and collaboration, we have a perspective. And like I said, what's the most important thing? It's the relationships and teamwork. So how can we share that with our customers?
What role does carbon removal play in your strategy?
For us, our goals set through the Science Based Target Initiative, and they're pretty clear that decarbonization is the priority. So I always lead with that. Our time and energy is going to be spent on reducing emissions first, always. That said, we have to take responsibility for the ones that we didn't reduce, and that's where our offset strategy comes in. We were trying to land, well, when should we start buying offsets and for what period? And so we went back actually to founding and said, hey, all the way since the company's founded, the estimate residual emissions, let's get after those with offsets. But again, that's just to take responsibility for what we couldn't reduce. The goal is always reduce first.
You referenced your Don't F the Planet guide, which I won't say the name on the stage, but what updates are you making to that guide? Who's that for, and what updates are you making in the AI moment?
The Don't Fuck the Planet guide has 2 versions that we've released, and as we're starting to think about when we would provide an update, what I really wanted to include is how we've been thinking about business travel and managing that through an internal carbon fee. We're in early days, but that will be kind of, I think, the next piece that I'd really like to share.
Okay, with the few seconds we have left, digital footprint, I think, is something that more companies should be thinking about more intentionally and thoughtfully. So what advice would you have to those, what questions should they be asking their hyperscaler partners, things that you think they really matter?
I think we have to own that this is new territory for all of us. And so there's a lot of humility that you can bring to the table and saying, hey, I want to understand how AI and this transformation is going to fit into my net zero goal. Get to your engineering teams, get to your heads of AI, get to your hyperscalers, and just ask the questions and start learning. I think we all have to be really willing to not have all the answers today and not know everything and build a community around us where we can really learn.
Great. Thank you, Jess, for being
thank you
here.
for having me.
Really appreciate your attention as well. Thank you so much. Please give it up for Jess.